Hello and welcome to the Wisertalk. My guest today is Mr. Joby CO, a chartered accountant by qualification. But in his career, he is very well known as the microfinance man. He did start his career in some institutions in employment, notably the ICICI Bank, where he rose to become the head of their global microfinancing operations. But the enterprise bug was always with him. And he gradually, as the bug kept on pushing him, he left the institutions and started traveling down the startup path. He has, in his career, he has given birth to several startups and then nurtured them and developed them into self-financing, self-sustaining institutions, which are mostly in the microfinance space. Finally, today, after many changes and many developments, he is today the CEO of Agrosperity financial system, which is a fintech company which caters to the microfinancing organizations. Hi and welcome, Joby.
Yeah.
Joby, I have been meaning to get hold of you for quite some time now, to learn about the very offbeat kind of work that you do in the rural financial space. And, your great deal of experience in a very, very niche and a growing and a more, thing which is becoming significant by the day, that's microfinance. And how microfinance actually becomes more important in the rural space, and it's something which can transform lives. And I've heard many stories about your entrepreneurial bug, and one after the other you have given birth to startups and seen them to fruition. So all these are very offbeat, off the track. And this is where I want to talk to you today. And I'm sure our visitors will love something which are non-standard, something which are path-breaking. But to get to the proper perspective on the genesis of such initiatives, I think we need to talk a little bit about your background, like how you sort of came to get onto this path, how you sort of thought of this path, and then where did you go from here? So I know that you have worked, you started your career in the microfinance space itself, in the ICICI Bank and in other organizations. And in ICICI Bank, you also rose to be the global head of microfinancing desk. So that is really something to talk about. So first, let us talk about your MFI background. Your genesis. Why the Joby of today?
Yeah.
Where has he come from? From being a greenhorn chartered accountant. Today, he is a microfinance specialist and he's a man of many parts.
Yeah.
How has it come to be? How did you start your career? Where?
Yeah, my pleasure joining with you on this conversation. I see my background. I'm son of a farmer. I come from an agriculture background, from a village setting. And maybe the work that I do have, kind of something to say about where I come from. Yeah, so I've been actually looking for more of a social impactful job as soon as I, kind of became a chartered accountant. Because this is, when I was a child, I used to have some conversations with my dad. He's a farmer. And over the years, I had figured out during my school days that some of my friends, parents, either dad or mom, works in government sectors, and, they can retire at the age of 60 and then continue to kind of get pension. And that was a new concept altogether to me, So I then went and asked my dad and, kind of asked, do you get any pension? He said, no.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, there was this guy, kind of one Mr. Parameswaran, I still remember, he should be then almost like 70, 72-year-old,
Oh.
still coming to work at home. And then I've never seen him standing straight. He's kind of always bend, and then he waters our plants and all of that. So
Aged gentleman.
aged gentleman. So I asked, why is Parameswaran still working? He should be, he's pretty old.
Yes,
So
yes.
my father got little annoyed by my nagging on pension and retirement and all of that. And then, yeah, so he looked at me and then said, and that's still, kind of registered in very bold letters in my mind. So he said, Joby, for farmers, death is their retirement, right?
Oh, wow.
Parameswaran,
Profound. That's profound.
yeah, Parameswaran will have to work till he die. He came to our house when he was a 13-year-old, 14-year-old boy.
Oh,
And
wow. So that's a long, long stint.
yeah, and I'm doing what I can do as I'm another farmer. And I will never tell him not to come. As long as he is able to walk and come, he will do, and he will come and he will do whatever he can, and I'll pay him for his survival. So beyond that, kind of I myself is struggling to kind of raise you all up. So that's why I'm telling you, don't stay back. Agriculture is not good enough. Study well and get a job. So
Oh,
right.
that is what most of our parents would be telling us in general.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But that was there in my mind, and I studied and I became a chartered accountant and all of that. And then I was looking for a job. I was fortunate enough to kind of get my articleship in an SB Billimore and Company.
That's SP Billimore, yeah.
And I got my industrial training in Unilever. And then, yeah, while you are not a chartered accountant, all these names were very important because it gave them some identity.
Yes, yes.
But the day that I became a chartered accountant, I was very sure that I can make a living if I'm willing to work. But then I want to do something which is transforming, which will transform the lives of the people, the background I am coming from. But I didn't find much jobs, right? I mean, I don't know what's connected with agriculture and things like that. So one of my friends recommended there is a company which is doing microfinance, and that was a totally new concept to me. I have never heard about it in my CA study days, or it wasn't a big sector at all.
And what year would it have been?
This is 2001, 2002.
Okay. Beginning of the millennium.
Yeah. And so I was curious, and then I said, see, I want to kind of have a look at it. And then I went and saw because as part of it, we were auditors of HDFC Limited, and HDFC was an investor in this company, and they owned around 50%. And Bilimoria was still doing its kind of audit. So that's the background. So we went there and we saw. So that was my first encounter with microfinance. I wasn't so convinced that, small amounts like 10,000, 20,000 rupees could do anything transforming, kind of transformational things to anyone's life. And I thought it's such a small amount. But when I interacted with a lot of these women, I saw a very different, kind of a world. These women had dreams and they were all building their lives. And these small amounts of loans helped them to be financially independent. And these are the women who are illiterate, otherwise would have reduced to be housewives producing some children, take care of them, take care of their husbands who go for work.
And always at the background of the home.
Yeah, and then do some cooking. Beyond that, there is no identity for this women. And we talk about a lot about women empowerment and all that. And,
yes,
and these people, I mean, beyond a personality, they're reduced to kind of just, baby producing.
Yeah. I know.
And to such people, microfinance sold dreams. right? You can do something by yourself, small hyper local activity, as simple as, we train you with tailoring and finance you to buy a tailoring a sewing machine.
Maybe, yeah, sewing machine, yeah.
And then you immediately you become economically active, and in my past 20 years of my life, we would have financed, kind of thousands of such women who tasted their first income in their lives. Taking a small loan, either buying a sewing machine or starting a retail business like fruits, vegetables, fish, all retail vending, learning about the beautician courses and become a beautician in the small village.
And these, as I'm listening to you, Joby, these are looking to me like almost like a rural fairy tale kind of thing. All the fairy tale of the small man, the small human. It's quite mesmerizing, and especially the way you describe it.
I got, I really loved it, and I decided this is kind of going to be my career, and this is where I'm going to kind of build my life. And I decided to kind of join this company called Indian Association for Savings and Credit in Marthandam, in down south in Kanyakumari. And that's where my grassroots banking experience started. Pretty much a startup that stage. It's just started with few customers. I joined pretty early. Quite an unusual decision at that point in time. I couldn't count.
I'm sure.
Chartered accountant in the
I can imagine a young, smart, fresh chartered accountant coming out, a white collar executive in an AC chamber, and he's taking his monthly pay packet home.
Yeah, now I've been used to all that because Bilforia was actually the auditors of all the large companies in the country, all the Tata companies, including the Taj hotels, everything. So, but I was actually looking for certain meaning in what I'm doing than what what we can actually get in terms of some facilities. So that's my background. That's how I came to microfinance. I will talk a little bit about the microfinance as an industry for the benefit of people who are kind of
not fully aware. Here, just to lead you into it, I have a question in mind, is that ultimately any finance company, micro, macro, whatever, they give money and they expect a project to be done, the money to be utilized properly, and some more money to come back. And that more money which comes back is their income, their profit, their administrative expenses, costs, etc. A very simple thing. I give you 1 rupee, you give me back 1 rupee 10 paisa at the end of the year or something. And with that 10 paisa, all my expenses and a bit of profit will come. The banks come to the mind moment we think of it. Now, how is a microfinance institution, is it just an extension, or is it just a rural version of a bank, or is it something else? Is it something different?
It's in some sense it's kind of an extension of banking industry, but because it's right on the the banking industry, but it's a sector altogether, because culturally this is a new kind of a sector building rural banking experience, right? Because what it actually does is that as you said, kind of there is to be economic opportunities for one to borrow and make some profit for themselves and pay from their end. Microfinance, the initial connection was to, because, a lot of people don't have access to the formal finance. To give you a sense of, right, I mean, we are 136 crore citizens in India, roughly about, let's say 30, kind of 35 crore households, if I can just take 3 or 4 members per home. And, let's say 2 adults per home is looking for job or employable.
Correct.
We about 60-70 crore Indians looking for a job, right? And if you kind of take the Provident Fund data, the PF, which is telling us about there are 5.5 crore Indians with a PF account. So that's by and large is the formal employment data in the absence of any other better survey of how many people are employed. And so,
so if 70 crore employable population and 5 crore PF account, I suppose would be the symbol of a stable, secure job.
yeah,
Perhaps something like that.
formal job.
And then it will be only 1/14 of
Right.
the employable population.
And then, another account would be to kind of see the tax paying Indians, right? There are about 4.895 crore Indians filed returns, and vast majority of them are salaried class people. So there is maybe another 1.5 crore people self-employed and paying tax. So even with that stretch, it's kind of coming to closer to maybe a 7 crore Indians with an income proof, which is
max.
Yeah, right.
Maximum.
So then there is all sorts of other NBFCs. Like, I mean, don't ask me all uncomfortable questions about what's your income,
Yes.
where do you work, which company and all, because I don't work anywhere. I have no stable income, but here is my asset, right? My gold, my land, my shares pledged, give me some money. So, and lots of Indians who don't have even those kind of assets to kind of get commercial, formal finance to start anything. So this is the whole, when I was entering into this sector, this was the gravity of issue. This was the, kind of people don't have affordable capital to engage themselves into economic activities. There could be lots of hyper local opportunities. Therefore, they were, hugely indebted to money lenders and the informal, and
yes.
We have no idea.
The debt trap, as we people say it.
And we have no idea about at what interest rates those market operates, because there is no real data. It's kind of a customer to customer.
And in general, we know that it's a criminal rate of interest. It's so high, and it also leaves us thinking that when the banks are there, which are offering institutionalized loans at a much, much lower rate of interest, why the hell do the people go to those money lenders? But I'm sure that the banks won't take in anyone and everyone, especially without asking questions, as you were saying.
Yeah, no, while we may see money lenders are with a little bit of negative when we talk about all this thing, but I do respect them, because as a nation, we don't have an infrastructure or an institutional setup for people to borrow who don't have a formal income proof and a formal bank account.
Correct.
So how do people survive? At least they knock at these doors of money lenders, local money lenders, even in the middle of the night, and they get money. The cost of the money is very different, right? Because you don't bargain with a money lender when you have to rush.
Yes, you can't.
Yeah, when you want to rush your son or your wife to hospital, it's not a conversation. So you just take it, you pledge your home, you do anything, but you want to kind of take that one. So that was an immediate connect for microfinance to kind of replace that money lender market with a formal finance. So, so that reduces the debt burden of the household substantially.
Yes.
And once they do that, then give the continuous doses of capital so that they can, kind of use that capital to, employ themselves into the local opportunities. And this is, thanks to, kind of Nobel laureate, Muhammad Yunus, who
from Bangladesh.
Right. Yeah. So he actually popularized this whole Grameen model of joint liability group, popularly known as JLGs. India was following a bit of the self-help group model, supported by NABARD and banks. That was low.
What would you say would be the difference or the fundamental difference between the two models?
Right. One is a savings linked model. What India was following is that these women has to kind of come as a group, start saving as 10 rupees, 20 rupees, whatever they can pitch in. And once the savings reach a certain, kind of a corpus, banks give maybe 4 times, 5 times of that amount as a group loan, and that group divides that as a equal amount among the members of the group. So it takes a pretty long period for people to kind of get any decent amount of money to start something.
Because they wouldn't have a reserve of savings. I imagine so.
Right. Yes. But the joint liability group model, kind of actually brought in by Grameen, was actually, built around the fundamental principles about banking, right? And because the banking, what we need is the, a credit team. You submit a loan application, it goes to a team. They have eligibility criteria. Somebody should, you can repay the loan. So it's the so-called know you are a customer, right? You have to know the customer by identity and address and their income levels. But in the absence of formal data, banks have no way to understand these people. So that's what the joint liability group model does, is the Grameen model. They ask the members of the group to guarantee each other under a joint liability guarantee agreement.
So just a sort of a word of mouth kind of guarantee, is it?
No, there is an agreement they sign, so which acts as a filter. So if I have to guarantee you, I will necessarily look at whether I'm comfortable with you, whether I know you, whether you have sufficient income.
And you shouldn't put me into trouble, kind of.
Right. So I'll see whether your husband is a drunkard, is a socially respected family. Do they send their children to school? So all sorts of things. The locally that knowledge resides with the neighbors. So Grameen model actually used, outsourced the credit underwriting into the village wisdom of the people through the group.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Really interesting. And so then are you saying that the Indian model of self-help groups was basically money guaranteed? Like you have savings, you get more loans.
So,
whereas this one is a sort of his reputation guaranteed. Kind of thing.
Yeah, the social collateral was the one which, because there was no tangible other collateral, right? There's no money, there is no gold, there's no land, but it was actually trusting. Microfinance was built on people's trust, right? I mean, there was people under, that 50 people trusted each other, the 10 group members trusted each other, the institution trusted them. So I think, it scaled pretty fast because people could immediately get the money, and then they can deploy that into the local opportunities. And women, by and large, globally, has been responsible with money, because they don't, the natural habits of misuse of money in terms of an alcoholism or other things are not generally associated with women. And they're I mean, whether it's in India or elsewhere, we have seen their concerns are about family upbringing.
Yes, they are the keepers of the family.
Children's education, family's health. So money normally get utilized properly. And once that money has done something, people have that innate feeling to kind of repay it. So I have seen very high intent to repay, though the ability to repay was not very high, because they all didn't have a lot of surpluses. But their intent to pay was very high. And that was the whole reason microfinance succeeded and scaled. And today, as we speak, this has become a very large sector. In every pin code, there is a microfinance branch. Operations available in every pin code. Almost like 6 to 7 crore households are directly reached.
And as you described this, and especially the stark contrast between the traditional money financed model and Muhammad Yunus's social collateral financed model. One thing which certainly comes to the mind, if I were to play the devil's advocate, that wouldn't there be a sort of collapse? Wouldn't the default rate be high? People don't have any savings to fall back upon. So even if it is not ill-intended, and many cases there could be some ill intention of fraud or something. So what would you say to that? And the institutions would also like to safeguard themselves from this kind of eventuality. So how does that work out?
Yeah, so today it's a very seasoned industry with almost like 100 plus microfinance institutions working in the country, having a customer base of 6 to 7 crore direct customer households being reached, having a close to 2.89 lakh crore of assets under management. The default rates has been under 1 or 2% quite recently. And
Oh,
I would say the credit risk in the sector is still very low, which is the customers defaulting themselves
hmm.
saying, I won't repay you. It's been
That
kind of
means
large,
intent to fraud or something.
right. The losses has been largely linked to events, whether it is in Andhra Pradesh crisis, which kind of made microfinance impossible in that state. There
Hmm.
were crises like the demonetization, kind of whether it's good or bad, but it really sucked the money from the market and
System, yeah.
it
Or
disturbed.
maybe COVID, which is the recent one. I don't know.
And there are in every state, there are natural calamities, whether it is floods
Hmm.
or, kind of
Hmm.
droughts and all sorts of cyclones. So
Hmm.
all of these things, because these are kind of households who are in the lower state of the economy, day-to-day lives, so they have to go to work to earn their daily wages and, kind of predominantly agricultural income, dairy income. So these are, kind of because of this, there is some amount of losses that has happened. But I would say compared to many other asset classes,
Yeah.
microfinance did perform really well. There has been operational risk. The point that you mentioned is that, because it's very human intensive work, the operationally very intensive job, right? And because it's
Mhm.
kind of most
Yes.
customers don't have bank accounts,
Mhm.
so the money in packets needs to be distributed to these people. That
Mhm.
has kind of moved into a little bit of now NEFT and kind of bank transfers, because most of the people have now bank account, but
Yeah.
collection is still,
So yeah,
uh,
so that would
yeah,
be in the fintech domain almost.
yeah. No, even
And yes, technology has brought about efficiencies
yeah,
all around. There's no doubt about it. But the way, I mean, when you address this last question of mine, I mean, it seems to be quite the beginning of an economic dream.
mm,
And on this very pleasant note, very heartening note, Joby, let's get into a little bit of a break.
yeah,
And when we come back on the other side, I'd certainly like to take you or take us, I'd like you to take us through a more focused narrative of your journey in the microfinance space.
sure.